that will explain that as well. We want to talk a little bit first and really try to define what we're talking about when we say make your money mean more. A lot of times you'll hear people say, oh, well, is that buy local campaign? Well, yes, it is. But let's get a little bit deeper into that. So as we talked about, it is a community-wide initiative, not a campaign, not a one and done. It's a positive initiative for our whole community. The goal, we're going to talk a little more about this, is to strengthen our local economy. We're going to talk about why that matters and really what that means for our businesses, for our community, for everybody involved. The difference within this initiative and other types of things that you see, we're not just talking about education. We are going for action. We're going for specific actions that we want to prompt to keep dollars right here in McLean County. And what type of action are we going for? We're asking specifically businesses to evaluate their purchasing behavior. And we're going to talk about that with a purchasing resolution that we've already adopted that's already working. We're going to ask community members to modify their behavior. We're going to talk to moms. We're going to talk to dads. We're going to talk to people who have no idea of what we're doing right here in our community work. And we're going to try to modify that behavior. But we've got to ask them. We've got to tell them why this is important. And we've got to ask them and say, hey, this is what we want you to do. We want to prompt that action. So the other thing is that when you have action, when you have planning, you've got to measure this. You've got to have accountability or things aren't going to happen. So we've got this measurement ingrained within this entire initiative to make sure that we can be successful and that we can continue to improve, and that's important. One of the things, just kind of some fast fact to give you a little bit of background, is that yes, this initiative is prompted by the McLean County Chamber of Commerce, and really any type of initiative that the Chamber takes is because the membership has said, yes, this is important to us. The leadership has said, we can get behind this, we understand this. This is important to our business community. So that's how this type of thing comes to be born here within this organization. But the participants, we've had hands-on involvement, as Charlie mentioned, it's been several years now. We've had dozens of volunteers coming together. The logo that you see, the colors that we're using, the actual name of the initiative itself, Make Your Money Mean More, has all been campaign and volunteer driven. And I think that's wonderful, and that's something to remember and to point out. Again, action is key. Without action from our local businesses and from our consumers, we're not going to do anything. We're just going to be a lot of smart people talking about some wonderful things, okay? But we need specific action to take place. And then structure and planning. That's been the biggest part of what's been lacking. We've had enthusiasm, like wonderful enthusiasm. When you talk about anyone and say, hey, well, we have a great idea about buy local to try to keep dollars here, everyone says, oh, that's great. Okay, but then what do? What are we going to ask them to do? How are we going to measure that? How are we going to make that happen? So the plan and the structure has to be such that we have something for people to do when they say they want to get involved, that we can measure what's happening to make sure that we're being successful, and that we can change and modify along the way as we need to make sure that we're going to get there. So one of the things that is important for this group, I think, to understand, for all of our leaders, and so we can start to communicate this right message about this initiative, is, so our goal is to strengthen local economy by keeping dollars here in McLean County. But why is that so important? When we take a look at, hey, keeping these dollars here versus, hey, we're shopping at Amazon, or they're going on our community, why does this matter? Well, first thing important to understand is that tax revenue is going to increase. Okay, what does tax revenue do? That supports the city's most vital needs: education, it's crime, it's our streets, it's our libraries, it's our golf courses, it's all of the things that we love about our community. That's critical. Second of all, employers can support their workforce, and they're going to keep unemployment low and buying power high, so it's jobs. It's jobs when we keep dollars here. And third is that our community will have more stability and insulation against unpredictable economic conditions. Okay? Now, one of the things that we talk about in many of the community meetings and programs that have been going on, especially lately over the last year, there have been a lot of talk of, well, Bloomington Normal has always been isolated or insulated. You'll hear that, okay? But what happens if one of our larger employers has a cutback? What happens if, okay? What is that trickle-down effect? Well, what everyone has really came to that conclusion, saying, you know what, Bloomington Normal, we know that we can't predict the future, but we are smart enough, we are united enough, we have the resources, we have the intelligence, we have the motivation to say, we can be proactive to start to shape our future, to start, not to wait until something does happen but to get together and proactively make sure that the future looks good, that it looks bright, that depending upon whatever might happen, we know we are doing everything that we can as a community to keep it as strong as possible. So when we talk about strengthening our local economy, when we talk about keeping dollars here, that's what we're talking about, okay? Protecting what we have, proactive efforts to make sure our future is indeed as strong as it can be. Buy local works. One of the things that is very, very important to understand, and this has been, now studies have been going on for local first, as they call it, campaigns throughout the country, and the results are just awesome. They are absolutely fantastic. There's a place called the Institute for Self-Reliance, and their report is actually 2015, so they were actually reporting on 2014, so they were looking at the year before. But what they found in their reporting, and this is for communities all across the United States, that 2/3 of independent businesses experienced growth when they had buy local campaigns in their communities. Retailers were up 5.1% for the year, okay? Holiday sales up 4.8. Now holiday sales, they were looking at the year before, and they did that because Christmas is a big, they couldn't do it at the end of the year based upon their study, but that's huge, and they anticipate that if they would have done it in 2014, it would have been even higher. U.S. Department of Commerce, revenue growth of 9.3 compared to 4.9 in areas without the initiative. Amazing, right? When you look at the dollars there, huge. And then 45%, I thought this was interesting, so I included this, but 45% report that it made city officials aware and more supportive of independent businesses, which made me think, which I didn't really know before, that perhaps people feel that city officials are not aware of independent businesses. To me that was kind of a given, but apparently not, because we're seeing change here when when we have these programs in place, when we have these initiatives in place. Final thing, 70% report a positive impact on business, and I think that's very, very relevant because it is not all about retail sales. So a retailer can say, wow, I sold X number more than I did last year, but I'm a service business. So in my business, because I make a relationship or I start a process with somebody, it might be a year before we actually have a sale or a signed contract from that company. But I can definitely tell you if I made that introduction because of a program or because of something going on in the community, that is very, very valuable. So that might be the types of things when they're reporting positive impact that are indeed very important for our community. So we know that buy local works. We know it's there, we know it's proven to do that. Which again, yet another reason for this initiative and for our enthusiasm for that and our drive to make that work here in our community. Now we talked about action and why action is so important. And again, this initiative goes beyond education, asking for specific participation. We're going to talk about that. Businesses are asked to sign, we're asking them to sign, this is currently in place, we're going to talk about it. We're asked to sign a purchasing resolution and agree to give buying preferences to local businesses. Consumers are asked to buy, to try, and to fly, and enjoy local, and everybody is being asked specifically to share their stories, to educate others, and to be good role models and advocates for the program, or for the initiative. We're going to talk about that. Structure and planning. Again, without appropriate structure and planning, any type of initiative that is this big is not going to get teeth. It's not going to have feet. And so we really needed to create, first of all, multi-tiered plans that are going to reach all audiences, commercial and community. We have to focus beyond retail to the entire community, and we'll have multiple committees working on the initiative. But the committees themselves, we're going to talk about this too, are all going to have very specific roles, specific goals, as well as the flexibility to be able to achieve those goals in a way that will be fulfilling for that committee and be able to utilize everyone's best strengths and what they can bring to the table. So that's exciting too. But today it is really a great way to understand the plan, to understand what we plan to do moving forward, the type of structure and possibility if you are interested in getting involved. And so we want to kind of go through those details, and please do, as we are, if you have questions, please feel free. I know we've got a Q&A session at the end, but I do want you to feel free to be like, explain that to me, or what do you mean? So please feel free to do that. So the first thing we want to talk about is the McLean County Purchasing Resolution. And The resolution, we actually, I want to say it's been, we kicked off the resolution publicly at the showcase. And what the resolution is an agreement, and I don't know if you have any that we could pass around. I can pass around mine. But what the resolution says specifically is that that we believe, so we provide this resolution to a business, and what this is, they're signing off from this is that we believe that the McLean County economy benefits when all businesses commit to buying local. 2, that jobs are created, our tax base is enhanced, and mutual support improves our economic quality of life. And they believe that if we purchase local goods and services, it will make a positive impact on the lives of citizens in McLean County. Therefore, here's the big kicker, therefore we pledge to commit to giving preference in buying and selling decisions to our McLean County businesses. So what we are doing is asking businesses and organizations all over McLean County to do this. We are asking them to sign it, to say that they understand that keeping dollars here will benefit our community, and to actively pledge to commit to giving preference whenever possible in buying and selling decisions to McLean County businesses. This is huge. This is huge. Think about what this means, okay? Think about what it means if there's an organization and all of a sudden they say, you know what, maybe we can't buy everything here because we have policies that do X, Y, and Z, but you know what? We think we can buy all of our campaign materials here. Maybe we can get all of our printing done locally. Maybe we can buy all of our specialty items for our events. Maybe we can buy all of our specific, whatever that supply is, right here in McLean County. So the impact of this is huge, and we understand though when people are signing this, right, that it's easy to sign something and put it away and forget about it. So our goal is with this is that we also, within signing this, that they understand that by doing so, this gives us a right to, first of all, touch base back with you. We're going to get your testimony. We're going to follow back up with you because we want to know and ask you about what you've done since you signed this resolution. We want to hear your story. We want to talk about impact, okay? And that continues to give us content, things to talk about, things to promote. We already have, I'm trying to think the number. We got, initially it was 30 plus. Okay, it's 50 now that we have signed, which is tremendous. We have, it's kind of been a soft sell on this, so it was kind of a soft launch at the show, but tremendous response so far. But we are trying to arm these specific employers with then, what does this mean and how can I do this? So we're providing them with tips and tools on how to do that too when they sign their resolution. We're trying to help them honor this resolution. So a part of that is, for instance, how can they do this? Well, first thing, we're asking them to review their purchases. We're saying, you know, where are you getting your supplies, your goods, and your gifts? What impact would it be if you kept those dollars right here? Second of all, we're saying, think about your services. You know, are you utilizing services that can be provided by a business that's here? A lot of times people just aren't sure, or this is just how they've always done it. And they haven't cognitively thought, well, you know what, gosh, guess what, there is that great marketing company in Bloomington, or whatever that might be, okay? And so those types of things, when an employer is challenged or a manager can sit down and go, wow, I hadn't thought about that before, that can make a huge impact right here in McLean County. We're also asking them to educate their employees, because your whole workforce is people. There's people there. So what can you do to educate your employees? Through newsletters, through meetings, through break room conversations, because they are here and they're consumers. And they're the ones buying food and flying here and going out and going to Rod Stewart, and that's them, okay? They're your people. So let's remind them of the importance of that, okay? And also sharing with others, okay? Every time that there's communication that goes out about this that is helpful for this initiative, communication is the name of the game. There's a lot of people here. We have to constantly be doing that. So you're going to hear that as a theme throughout all of our recommendations and promotions. So the purchasing resolution is a very exciting component of this, and one that hits the business and commercial market, and we're excited to have launched that, to have that in process, and to have that be a very important element through this important element. The next element of this initiative I want to talk about is marketplace education, okay? And when we say marketplace education, the best way for us to describe this is there are many businesses out there that are already doing some tremendous advertising, okay? Everybody from your Mitsubishi dealers to your restaurants they've got billboards, they've got cable, they've got messaging going out to large markets that in our chamber business world here, we're not touching every day. So what the marketplace education component is specifically asking and going out and talking to the businesses who are already advertising and already communicating with large markets, and asking them basically to utilize the messaging that we have, the logo that we have, to try to educate their market about the importance of keeping dollars here in Bloomington. Let me give you an example. So we have on our email list of customers, friends, and people who like us, well, I shouldn't say all people who like us, and some people who just, maybe emailed me once, but, so we've got about 1,000 people that we keep in touch with, okay? And of those 1,000 people, then I certainly can put an article in my newsletter about Make Your Money Mean More and the importance of this, okay? And when I do that, I'm becoming an advocate, our company is becoming an advocate for this initiative. Now, that's just me. Now, let's think about if the hospitals do that. Let's think about if all the companies are doing that and they're putting this on their Facebook and they're putting it in their newsletters and they're putting it in their radio advertisements, which have you heard? Some people are already doing that. Okay, now they're putting it in their pantograph ads. Now you're seeing it everywhere. Well, who's benefiting from that? Everybody. That businesses, because it's clear that they're locally minded, they are providing their community with interesting and relevant information. They are keeping dollars here in the community, and everybody wins from doing this. But right now, businesses don't know, if you do, they don't know that this is even a possibility. So to support them in these efforts, we want to give them the logo. We want to give them suggestions on how to do that. You can put this in your store. You can put this on your receipts. You can put this in your newsletter. You could use this on Facebook. This is yours to use. Let us help you do that. And use this in your advertising. Use this in your initiatives. And then when they do, with proof of that, the communications for the initiative itself are going to then provide some positive reinforcement. We're going to push back out to the same publics, hey, thanks to Business Builders for placing the Make Your Money Mean More article in their monthly newsletter, okay? And who's going to see that? All of our same people, okay? So the companies are going to get cross exposure for doing that, and again, everybody wins. We're going to be hitting different markets, and it really gives us a lot of traction in many different markets that we haven't had. Can you imagine if we start getting into the communications for the school districts going out to parents? A whole other market, okay? Completely different communications that are consistent. So a lot of really cool things here within this area. Again, support and motivation. Not only will those individuals who decide and choose to provide marketplace education to their market, use of the logo, use of status mentions online and social platforms, but also they will have access to Max, the Buy Local Bluebird mascot. And he is a fabulous little bluebird that I want to talk about next. So for those of you who don't know Max, he is the Buy Local Bluebird. He was also created by committee and has been growing many, many fans since his birth, since he was kicked out of the nest. And Max exists really to help the community sing the message. He is somebody who is prompting exposure and generating excitement. One of the big things that we've seen through the committees and feedback and everything that we've had is like, make this fun. Help people want to pay attention to this. I mean, it's kind of like when your mom is always telling you gotta make your bed, you gotta make your bed. It's like, well, I know, right? But if that message, if that packaging matters and how that's presented, hey, if you do that, we can go to here. Oh, good, okay, that might be an incentive there. So, but before, we were using him kind of sporadically in the best possible way, and committees were doing a great job getting him out. Max has been on parades, okay? He's left little feathers a few places in downtown Bloomington, but that's a whole other story. But now we have a plan in place for him to soar. And I want to talk a little bit about that. So Max in action. Max is, and we are in process of making him available to local businesses who will advocate for the initiative. So if there are companies who are striving to educate their market, then we can support them through the use of Max, okay? Get them some exposure through Max. We want to make Max, instead of, he's not the chamber's Max, okay? He's not the chamber's mascot, he's the community's mascot. And because of that, we want to make Max accessible to the community. So we're going to have online requests where people can type in and say, this is what we're doing, and here's when we would request Max. We would love to have him come. They certainly do have to prove that it would be strategic and it would be an advocate, an event that would advocate for this initiative. Okay, so we have to be a little careful. You know, Max can't just be playing poker and smoking cigarettes on a Friday, right? So we have to be a little careful how we use him. But and we can't always honor every request too. But we have him as a tool and as a help and really as a great fun way to turn heads and to get attention and to get a message out. Because isn't it a lot more fun if we have media messages and they're coming, reminders that are coming from Max than coming from Jonathan all the time? No offense, but you know, he's got feathers, I mean, in a cape, so it's a whole different level, okay? And again, kudos to the committee for working with us and coming up with this and making something very, very fun with our communication strategy. Now, Max loves holidays, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use Max to remind our community to buy local, specifically during strategic holidays. The reason we selected these holidays, so Christmas, back to school, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Valentine's Day, Halloween, is because from a retail perspective, these have the most potential to where we can change our retail fiscal impact. Okay, so let me just kind of give you an example. So Mother's Day, okay? Discretionary income is typically used for Mother's Day. It is a very high gift-giving holiday, but that gift can be something that we buy on Amazon, or it can be FTD 800 number, or it can be dollars spent right here, okay? And it may not matter, whoever is buying that gift, they might not think about it, they're just doing it. It's like, oh, Mother's Day crept up on me, it always does. Oh, what are we gonna get her, right? So it's that last minute shopping. Well, we know we can have tremendous impact by reminding the community of the importance of keeping dollars here. So we use Max to have fun with that messaging. And with this, it is not just saying, hey, well, we're just gonna use Max and he's just gonna be hanging out around town. It's gonna be very strategic. So specific numbers around each holiday of social media mentions, specific media releases of Max reminding the community of why this is important around this specific holiday, specific examples, specific appearances. Okay, so Max might be strategically going to, around Mother's Day, one of our local florists to talk about the importance of buying the flowers here versus somewhere else. Okay, strategic use. The other thing is when you have, and some of these holidays, more may be added. We certainly, if there's a holiday in there that you don't see, you're like, what about Thanksgiving? I love Thanksgiving. Well, the thing about Thanksgiving, just to kind of throw this out as part of like decision making within this, is you're gonna go here to the local grocery store, and that's wonderful. So it's typically you're not having more of that online purchasing during that type of holiday. So there's a lot of factors that go into this, but he still will be present in other holidays as well. But it is important that we have some strategic dates and timelines, because when we're looking at action, we're looking at committees and we're looking at planning, we want to make sure that we know, okay, here are the specific holidays that we're going to have social media messaging, that we're going to have advertising, that we're going to have activity, and we're going to center around those dates. Okay, so it helps for planning meetings as well. Now, I want to specifically talk about some campaigns that are going to occur within this initiative. Both Christmas and back to school holidays are specifically found, and we know, to be the highest local dollar holidays out of all of them. Okay, so we have the ability to make the most impact around holiday time and around back to school time. And so we want to focus and have some more increased activity around these areas and plan strategically to do that. But you know, one of the things that's critical with this planning is we wanted to make sure that we have an approach that is both attention gaining and it's repeatable. So we want to make sure that it's not like every Christmas, like, oh, it's Christmas again. What are we going to do for Christmas? How are we going to get the message out? What are we going to do with Max? Right? Or, oh, it's back to school again. Really? How do we get back to school again? I mean, as you know, things come very, very quickly. So we have to have a plan in place. So the specific recommendation with these campaigns. Really motivation for this came from quite a while ago from an awesome campaign that was done in Iowa. One of the things that they found great success with is focusing on one specific item, talking about the economic impact of that item, and then getting attention for people to understand that if you purchase this one item here, just one, this is the impact this is going to have on our community. Now, they picked toilet paper. And so the Wipe Local campaign made national news, okay? And if you ever want to Google that just for some laughs with some of the videos, it's hilarious, okay? Now, we're not necessarily a Wipe Local kind of community, as much as we would love to kickstart the campaign that way. What was proven within this is that when you select a specific item, it does a couple things. First of all, it makes it real. It makes it real. Maybe it's backpacks that we're talking about, okay? And what if everybody in Bloomington Normal bought all of their kids their backpacks right here? They didn't go to Amazon, they didn't go to Pottery Barn Teen, they didn't go to the source maybe that they've gone to before. They bought it here. And what is that going to mean to our economy? What does that do to our tax dollars? What happens with that? So what do? How do we make this work? So we get Max and we get him a backpack, okay? And we take pictures of him. We get our numbers and our economic impact. We send him to Dick's Sporting Goods maybe, and he's talking all about backpacks, okay? And we get media releases, and we have Max flying into the radio stations, and we use our press releases to center around this. We've got something to talk about. We've got something to talk about. We have something people understand. We have a campaign that we can achieve. We can do this at Christmas. We can do this at back to school. We can pick different items, and we can do it for a decade. Okay? Now, we know that this worked in Iowa. We know it's working all across the country. We messed around with it last year with a strand of lights. And even that communication prompted more understanding than many of the other communications that we had. People got it. They're like, oh yeah, if you get your lights here, that's going to help everybody. I can do that. It's also a little step. It's kind of like, well, you know, I don't know if I'm going to be able to like totally lead that committee, but you know, I could be on it. I might be able to do some posting or whatever that is. It's a step, okay? And so that's what we need to get at. So specifically, what we are going to be doing is focusing on the 2 campaigns per year. We're going to focus on a relevant item. We're going to gain impact stats from that. And then we're going to, again, center communications and excitement around this item. We're going to have scheduled events, media involvement, social communication, now that have content and focus. They can still be creative. The committee working with that, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, certainly has some flexibility, but now we've got structure. Now we have a system that we know will be successful, and we can start planning for that. And we can plan ahead. We can plan 2 years ahead if we want to. So those are the types of things that are doable, other than just the vague, how do we get this message out? Communication has to be ongoing. So it's not Christmas, it's not Mother's Day, it's not a holiday. The business community, everybody signed the purchasing resolutions, all is good. What do? Okay, we can't go silent. And anybody who knows, who's done any kind of social media planning or communication work, or it is sometimes very hard to get our arms around consistent communication that's going to generate awareness. Okay, so what the recommendation is specifically that we have a promotional model that works to provide a consistent pool, and consistent is a big word here, consistent pool of content that reminds the entire community about the wonderful reasons that we have to care about our county and about our community. And there are many, many wonderful things here. What types of things? It's our parks, it's our golf courses. It's the guys who are gonna be there if my house is on fire. It's the people that are fixing the potholes, or people we can yell at to fix the potholes, however you want to look at that. And right here in Bloomington, in McLean County, we have tons of things. So the promotional model that we've recommended that we're going to be utilizing has 2 elements. One, it always references something that's appreciated locally and supported by sales tax. That's important. And then 2, it has a statement that reminds the community of the importance of keeping dollars here. Okay, let me give you some examples of that. Well, actually, first, before I do, with the promotional model, it's important for Sanity to really focus on an achievable quarterly basis So in other words, how we're recommending breaking this out is taking the quarterly approach. So enjoy local would be 1 quarter. Okay, now depending upon what quarter, hey, that would make sense to do that more on a summer basis, right? It's our parks, it's our pools, it's our golf courses. Appreciating local, that's more of our services, okay? So our safety, our fire, our police. Learning local, that's our libraries, our museums. Move local, transportation, roads. So sales tax supported things that are indisputable, okay? These are things here within our community. And then just to kind of give you an example, and I apologize for my fun characters. I told them earlier this is what happens when I do my own PowerPoints. My team doesn't, like, oh, Jennifer. But so ongoing community messages, by doing so, it's social, it's visual, it's got a lot of promotional material. And so our example here is love lemurs, buy local. Dollars that stay here help support Miller Park Zoo. Okay. So how does that apply that promotional model? It reminds everybody that, hey guys, we have this awesome zoo right here in Bloomington, and our sales tax is supporting it, and when you keep your dollars here, you're enabling that to happen. You're enabling that to happen. How wonderful is that? Again, promotional model where we never run out of content. You know why? Because we've got courses and parks and streets and firemen and policemen and services, and we have a lovely community. But we have to remind people all the time that we have that, and we have to remind them of the wonderful things that we have here, that by keeping dollars here, this is what that's going to benefit. So, and of course, Max gives us another example. Hate potholes, avoid Amazon, and keep local dollars working for you. So that just shows you many ways to apply it. That could be on social media. We could have our lemurs on a billboard. Okay, we can utilize this again in advance, strategically over a quarter, to have multiple messaging, to have social media content, to have visual appeal. Okay, also to have our municipalities say, we're in, absolutely, that's what we've been telling you guys, right, Heather? That's what we've been telling you for years, right? This supports that, and it brings us all together, because this is our community. This is everybody's, okay? And this reminds us of that and provides that consistent, ongoing messages as we have these other elements within the whole program, the whole initiative. Paid advertising is important. One of the things that, you know, as social as we love to be, and how that is grassroots efforts, affordable marketing is very much cornerstone and key to all of this planning, but there's gonna have to be paid efforts, especially when we're really trying to get this off of the ground and put our best foot forward. We recommended specifically a budget of $5,000 to $7,000 per month for the first year for this initiative, to put best foot forward and to make sure that we are really hitting the ground running. So we don't keep lagging and say, well, maybe next year we'll have a chance to. We really want to give this our best foot forward so we can start to perpetuate a bigger audience on social media. So we do have the avenues and we do have that attention that will make that more affordable as years go on. So billboards, radio, print, paid, social media efforts, all recommended within this initiative. Now, we talked about how a plan in itself is wonderful, but without the people to execute that, you just have a plan, you just have a lovely vision. So specifically the structure that we want to talk a little bit about, there are committees that we are working to form to help in all these different areas. I want to talk about each of those committees. The first is the Purchasing Resolution Committee, and that committee specifically will work to talk with and communicate to businesses within the community with the goal of getting them to sign the purchasing resolution. Also to follow back up with them for testimony and to make sure that that process is working. And so that is very much focused on the one purchasing resolution aspect. The Marketplace Education Committee specifically will be working with community businesses to talk to them, educate them, ask them specifically to include the initiative logo and messaging within their communications to their market, and then working with them to get proof of that so then they can too be pushed out and get incentive for doing that, okay? The Max in Action Committee is the committee who's going to be helping Max go on parades and to events and taking requests and making sure that his presence in the community truly is positive, okay? And there's a lot of work within that, sometimes just logistically to make that happen. The Special Campaign Committee will specifically be working with the holiday time, so Christmas time, and back to school campaigns dealing with media spends, dealing with creation of getting those statistics for how much it's those Christmas lights or that backpack and what that means for the community, and working to make that happen and working in advance. So right now we know we've missed back to school, but we would be looking at holiday, and then simultaneously while we're looking at our next holiday, we'd be looking at our next back to school, okay? And then the Make Your Money Mean More committee, which is the main committee made of chamber board members, who will be, and I'll get into this a little bit, really overseeing and responsible for overall all of these actions. Each committee is going to have a chairperson and then a point person from the Make Your Money Mean More committee. So let me give you an example of this, and we haven't assigned who that is at this point. But so there's a chairperson of the committee, and that chairperson, as they were discussing what they were going to do specifically within their committee, they had questions or they weren't sure and not quite sure what to do, then they could specifically go to their point person, maybe their point person is Leanna, and say, hey, we're thinking about this, but we're not sure if this is the right direction. And because of Leanna's experience on the main committee, she would know if that would be something that's really going to fly or not going to fly, or be able to give some specific direction and consultation. So really, you will have a mentor that will help you and guide you and be able to communicate with you and make sure that there's, or here's the other thing, my committee's full of people that aren't showing up, or not that that ever happens, right? Or okay, so any type of challenge that you have, we're there to help that, and the point of that is so that's successful. We want these committees to be working, productive, and happy, and in order to do that, what we're providing for each committee is specific goals and specific recommended methods. Okay, but those methods have flexibility. So in other words, you're not a drone. you're there for your brain and your abilities and all of those wonderful things, but we're saying, here's the goal. Here are some things that we recommend, ways that you can achieve that goal. But here is some flexibility. As long as you achieve this goal, if you decide you're going to do that a whole different way, God love you. That's great. So you have that autonomy too, and that was something that was very important as we got feedback from several different members. It's like, well, sometimes initially it was like, well, we don't have enough to do, or we're not quite sure, or well, how do you want us to do this? So there wasn't that structure in place that exists now. And the other thing that I think is important is that reporting responsibility